Now that we've played a bit with velocity, I want to take a look at what's really an important concept, and one that I've put off in part because most of us aren't using MIDI keyboards to input our data, our notes. And it's much, much more a function of anyways, context makes sense that this is something that would be used much more after using input devices. So the idea is quantization. So what does it mean to quantize your MIDI notes? And it's easiest just to show you. This initial drum beat that I have now, I kind of took our original boom bap beat and I placed, you can see that these notes, I went into slip mode and just moved some notes off beat and whatnot. So if I were playing this on a drum pad or a keyboard, it's possible that I would make some errors like this. Let's listen to this drum beat. Okay, that is not good. Now, what can we do? We can go in and we can move all of these notes individually and fix it. And there are times that I do that. It's not that big of a deal. I have, maybe 16 notes here. But there is an automated function called quantizing. So if we come up to event and event operations and choose the quantize dialog box, quantization is the process of more or less moving notes, rounding to the nearest note value of the grid value. So that can be done quite simply. You can quantize. So when you're looking at this window, and I'm really going to not go through everything here, the note on, meaning when does it start to play? So, something basically like getting it to the note where it starts to play. The note off value is where it stops, and you can kind of change the duration. You can see that preserve duration notes, if I say note off, I want them all to be 16th notes, it will change the length of the note. That's not too important for us because drums are very short transients, and a 30-second note triggers the same thing as a 16th note. You can set your grid. So what are we going to round to? Is it the nearest 16th note, nearest 32nd, etc.? And a number of other things that we're going to get to in order to explore this next step of humanizing. So first, we're actually going to dehumanize. Maybe this drummer here is new to the game, just learning how to drum and hasn't quite got it together yet. What I'm not going to, actually I'm going to do it. I'll show you kind of what issues can arise when you do this. So let's keep it simple. Note on, that's all we're going to do. We're going to quantize to the 16th note, nothing else. Hit apply. Watch these notes when I hit apply. Okay, they all went to the nearest 16th note. What mistake did you see? I don't know if you saw any, but the one is that this one set of 30-second notes, because one was 50%, it was 50% towards the 16th note, it went to the nearest 16th note, which was beat 3. So how can I avoid that? I can deselect those two notes so they're not in my selection, so that I only quantize my 16th notes. There you go. So this is now a perfect 16th note beat. Okay, this is the one that had no velocity change, so it is now exactly the same as this one that has a bit more dynamics in the velocities. Okay. So we took something that sounded like a beginner drummer, and we made it sound like a perfect robotic drummer. What else can we do to kind of get to this humanistic element, or trying to humanize it a bit? A couple things. One, we can randomize. And randomizing by anything too much, like say 50%, let's go ahead and watch these notes, is really taking some liberties. See how late that hi-hat is? It took our 30-second notes again, went crazy. It is still kind of doing it to the 16th notes, but we got some issues, okay? It's too much. If you randomize, say, to 10%, though, let's try 11 since that's where it went. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Okay, let's do 10%. I'm not going to, let me unhighlight those again. All right, so we had, a late hi-hat here. If we zoom in, we're going to see, our snare drum is a little bit late. Our second kick drum, there's a little bit late. We have a snare drum that's a little bit early. Let's listen. What I'm actually going to do is duplicate this track again. So I just undid what I did there. So let me zoom back out a little bit, make sense of what we're looking at. I'm going to take this one, redo this. All right, so let's listen to both of these and see. So you can tell that actually all those notes are slightly off. So, okay, now they're perfectly aligned again. When things are in line perfectly, all you're doing is increasing the volume by playing 2 tracks. But when I put in my randomization of 11%, you're going to get a flanging sound because each one of these notes is slightly different than the original that was just robotically perfect. So, play with randomization. I'm going to undo that again just to kind of look at some other ways of doing this. You can offset the grid by a certain number of ticks. Remember that ticks is the increments. How many ticks are there in a quarter note? Am I wrong to say 960? Don't quote me on that. So we can kind of just say, hey, why don't we move things all over by 10 ticks? That is not something normally that you would do with everything, but you might highlight your snare drums, your main snare drums, and say, let's move these by 5. All right, we're just going to make them a little bit late. And to be honest, funk music, hip-hop music, we like to kind of sit back on the beat. So it's common to offset. So that would be offsetting the grid as opposed to randomizing it. We're in charge of it, and we're saying, hey, let's make it 5 ticks. I kind of like the randomizing, though. Okay, so everything in this except for my 30-second notes going to get randomized. Boom. Okay, the other thing that you can do is add swing. Now, swing is, it kind of can get overdone. Let's check out a high level of swing. You're going to see how much. Okay, let's keep forgetting my 30-second notes. Okay, so that was kind of almost against the grain, but anywhere swings like ta 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 as opposed to ta 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 ta. But a nice 15 to 20%, boom. Just moves things over slightly, gives us a little bit different of a feel. And there are other details to this, but we don't need to look at them right now. So let's just listen to our velocity, our original velocity beat. And our velocity with some randomization in the quantizing. Now, it's possible when you listen to those, you're like, I don't really hear the difference. There is a slight difference. It's provable right here. And these are details. These are details that make, one producer, to be honest, better and more thoughtful and caring about their music than the next. There you go.